Welcome back to our two-part special on Portugal with Trafalgar Holidays. We're leaving Lisbon for Porto, another big metropolis along the Atlantic coast, and making a quick lunch stop at the fish port of Nazare. The big ships of the great Portuguese explorers and navigators are long gone, but what remains here in Nazare are many small fishing boats. You see, a majority of the fish caught in this part of Portugal are still caught by line, hand line, which means a lot of fishermen in this area and a lot of really good seafood restaurants. For most of the year, Nazare is a quiet fishing village with weather-beaten homes, a small town plaza, narrow cobblestone lanes, and here and there, old folks in local costume. It's also known as the country's best beach this side of the Atlantic, and the small town fills up with tourists every summer. We're here in Nazare to enjoy two things: the beautiful Atlantic coast and, of course, Portugal's famous seafood. Our travel director recommended this restaurant. They have really good grilled sardines and fish stew. Can't wait to try it. O Tamanco serves traditional Portuguese seafood cuisine, using fish and shellfish caught fresh off the coast. When you have fish fresh off the boat, you only need to grill it. With sardines, adding salt and lemon is all there is to it. Fish stew, or caldeirada, is a Nazare specialty as well. It's codfish, bacalhau, slow cooked in the pot, with fresh picked onions, garlic, peppers, and coriander. The Nazarenes also have their seafood version of paella, arroz mariscos. The fish stew is perfectly done, with a rich broth that tempers the saltiness of the cod. This is a fishing village, so the arroz mariscos here doesn't scrimp on the seafood. This looks yummy. It's got everything in it: mussels, clams, lobster. If you want a little kick, a spicy hot kick, a Portuguese specialty, piri-piri sauce. It's the piri-piri sauce. Piri-piri is added to most Portuguese dishes. It doesn't add flavor, just extra heat. Shrimps. Ah, the simple joys of Nazare village life. The seafood, the sea breeze, and the stunning seascape. It's worth more than just a pit stop. And so we're back on the road along the coast of Porto. We're stopping over at Fatima, which exactly 100 years ago was nothing more than a poor pastoral village. Today, the shrine is a sprawling sanctuary with millions of pilgrims visiting every year. Most are here to pray for miracles, but even non-Catholics find inspiration in the spiritual atmosphere that envelops the shrine. The Basilica of Our Lady of the Rosary of Fatima is an important pilgrimage site. The remains of Jacinta, Lucia, and Francisco are buried here. It was on that spot over there where the tree is, where the three children of Fatima saw the apparition of the Virgin Mary, known since as Our Lady of Fatima. That was in 1917, which means 2017 will be the centennial year of that event. The official Trafalgar itinerary includes an overnight stay in Fatima, so guests can experience the nightly processions here. But we're on a tight schedule and back on the road to Porto. Arriving in Porto at night isn't the best way to see this beautiful city. But when the sun is out, Porto reveals her full architectural glory. The Ribeira, Porto's riverfront, provides one of the most spectacular images of the city. It's listed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and a walk along the promenade is something you need to include on your trip. Brightly painted buildings, colorful tiled facades, antique iron balconies, and glimpses of the city's famous cafe culture make you fall in love with Porto immediately. I think the first thing that really grabs your attention in Porto is the river. Tell us about how important this river is.
Very, very important since the very beginning. As a matter of fact, the word of the city, the name of the city, Porto, means the harbor. And when we speak about Portugal, that gave the name to Portugal, Portus is the Latin word for harbor, Cale is the Greek word for harbor.
Portugal.
So, Portugal.
I guess
Portugal.
that underscores the importance of Porto to the entire nation of Portugal.
Oh yes.
And it was, I understand, up until recently maybe the wealthiest, most important city of the country.
Quite true, it was.
Why is that?
Because Porto always was a city of the merchants, people that had to work very hard to survive. One of the privileges was that the noble people were not allowed to live in the city because they were rich, they didn't work, and the merchants had to work for them.
So there's a good work ethic here.
Yes, it is.
Despite its commercial importance, Porto was never the capital of Portugal, but it was definitely a very wealthy city. Let's see where all that money was made. The neoclassical Palacio da Bolsa is Porto's old stock exchange building and chamber of commerce. It was built to project the power and wealth of Porto's merchant class and impress investors from all over the world. It rivals, even surpasses the palaces of Lisbon's aristocrats. Well, if you're impressed with this building so far, you ain't seen nothing yet, because behind this door is what's known as the Wow Room. Wow. Told you so. It's the Arab Room, where dignitaries were received and wowed. Called Arab because of the lavish Moorish revival style popular at the time. Buildings like these were built with money made from the commodities trade and from Porto's most important export then, port wine. Despite their quality, Portuguese wines are probably one of the least known in Europe, except for one particular variety, port wine. We're here to visit one of the most important port producers in Portugal. Sandeman was established in 1790 by Scotsman George Sandeman. The company was the first to brand port wine and is largely responsible for popularizing this once obscure variety of wine. Back then, the Brits were the largest consumers of port, a Swedish fortified wine using grapes harvested, fermented, and aged in wineries up the river from Porto in the Douro Valley. The wine is eventually transported to this cellar for storage in casks, for further aging according to type. At the end of the tour is, well, what you might call the best part of it. We have to taste at least 3 varieties of Sandeman's port. We have a white port, a late bottle vintage, and a tawny port. Let's try it. White port is made from white grapes. It has a refreshingly sweet, crisp, citrusy flavor. Vintage port goes very well with rich food, especially rich dessert. Usually it's cheese, or my favorite, chocolate. Chocolate and port, especially vintage port, it's a perfect match. Tawny, which is aged in oak, has the aroma of nuts and dried fruits with a rich, delightful mouthfeel to it. Port is often stereotyped as sweet dessert wine, but though some are, you can also find some very premium varieties, ranging from special vintages and single origin wines to highly complex 30 and 40-year tawnies. Thanks in part to earnings from exports like wine, the city of Porto has one of the most attractive urban landscapes in Europe. I love to explore cities on foot, and the good news about Porto is it's a walking city with so many beautiful streets and beautiful buildings. Now, there's no single architectural marvel here like an Eiffel Tower, just so many lovely buildings representing different architectural styles. You really have to walk around the city to appreciate it. Begin at the central square, the Plaza de Liberdade, and taking the awe-inspiring mix of neoclassical, Art Nouveau, and Art Deco architectural styles. Even the local McDonald's is an attraction, not for the Big Macs, but for the original Art Deco design. For lunch, we'd rather recommend the historic Cafe Guarani, with its photogenic Art Nouveau facade and classy interiors. I've asked Pedro Pinto, Trafalgar's Portuguese travel director, to show me some of Porto's other architectural landmarks. There's hardly a street that doesn't contain one. Up Rua, along Rua Clerigos, are some old churches and mansions adorned with azulejas, those beautiful hand-painted ceramic tiles you come across all over Portugal. You know, Pedro, I have to admit, I'm really starting to fall in love with Porto, especially tiles. You see all these tiles all over the city.
Beautiful tiles. End of the 19th century, beginning of the 20th century. These are from 1912, and they depict scenes of the life of the Carmelites. Beautiful.
But you have this in other buildings, even ordinary homes.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
And it's unique to Porto?
Outside like this, yes. Traditionally, in Portugal, we would have tiles inside, but not as big panels like you see here. These are simply some of the biggest panels in Portugal.
The Igreja de Carmo has one of the most stunning blue and white tile murals in Portugal. Azulejos serve both decorative and proselytizing functions. Churches often use them for religious instruction. There's so much to enjoy in Porto that's absolutely free. Close by is Porto's best-loved bookshop, the Livraria Yellow. Ever since word got out that J.K. Rowling based much of the Harry Potter series imagery on this bookshop, the owners have had to start issuing tickets to manage the crowd. So thanks to Harry Potter, we now have so many people lining up here just to see a bookstore. And what's there to do inside?
It's a beautiful 19th century bookstore.
So even without Harry Potter, it's worth a visit, right?
Of course, of course. It was always considered one of the most beautiful bookshops in the world.
And I must agree, forget Potter. This 110-year-old bookstore is an absolute neo-Gothic gem. Everything about it is, well, to use a Potter reference, magical and spellbinding. Wow, this is amazing. Pedro was right. You don't have to be a Harry Potter fan to really enjoy this place. Look at the interiors. Look at the Brazilian wood that they use to construct this magnificent bookshop. But of course, if you're a Harry Potter fan, then you'll probably recognize this staircase. It's amazing. The Potter influence is inescapable, but unfortunate. That's all you came here for. Okay, a lot of people come here for the Harry Potter books. That's understandable, but really, this is a section you want to be. It's the Portuguese literature section, and they have this wonderful writer called José Saramago, who is a Nobel laureate for literature. Porto was where J.K. Rowling, an impoverished English teacher and divorcee, lived and wrote her Potter series. Parts of it in a historic cafe along one of Porto's busiest streets. The Majestic Cafe is considered one of Portugal's most iconic. It's so popular, you'll need to stand in line to get a table inside. There are many more cafes that offer cheaper and better coffee, tea, or pastries. But if enjoying the ambiance of an authentic Belle Epoque landmark is your thing, and some really good hot chocolate, then a Cafe Majestic is definitely worth the wait. Less than a week in Portugal, and we've only scratched the surface. Lisbon and Porto on the Atlantic coast may be the two most visited cities, but they're only one facet of this complex country. When our Trafalgar guided holiday continues next time, we travel deep into the hinterlands and interior towns of Portugal. And that's all for the first part of our series on Portugal. Tune in again next time for the second part. Till then, I'm David Celdran, and thanks for watching.